Lilith and Virgo, the repressed exiled expression. This is how her sacred discernment gets twisted into self-judgment and internal control. As of April of 2025, we are in the south node of Virgo, which means we're in the north node of Pisces, the underbelly, the world shadow, and also the mysticism. We are returning to the Great Mother with this placement. And it's like the Virgo south node. Remember how I say the south node is your wisdom? Then it's like the la 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 la. You get to like organize everything. So you can really put into practice, especially with the Neptune and Aries conjunction that's happening at 0 degrees Aries on February 20th of 2026. We get to really rebirth a new experience of what it is to be a woman, and also what it is to have this next cycle of evolved consciousness where we're no longer angry at the patriarchy. We're like, oh, this is the story of life on the civilization level, and I happen to be alive at the shift of civilization. Okay, so it's so awesome. So let's see what your Virgo placement of Lilith is going to tell us. Okay, I'm actually like really excited. Okay. Feels never enough, constantly finding flaws in herself and others, obsessive with cleanliness, perfection, or order to avoid emotional chaos, hypercritical of her body, views it as broken, impure, or needing to be fixed, suppresses intuition in favor of logic, routines, or over-researching, silences herself to avoid conflict or messiness, over-apologizes for existing, weaponizes discernment as judgment, becomes harsh, rigid, and controlling, overgives and overworks to feel useful, sacrifices self for service, suffocates creativity or sensuality to maintain control, feels disconnected from the wild, stuck in duty, productivity, or doing it right, avoids spontaneity or flow, fears making the wrong move, becomes a chronic analyzer, can't trust body wisdom or spiritual downloads, inherited ancestral shame around sexuality, menstruation, and imperfection. Okay. It's like the nutshell. This is the nutshell of like embodied patriarchy. And one of the things that comes to mind is I use Chat GPT a lot. And I asked Chat GPT about the plastics. And so the figurines, the stone figurines of depictions of the goddesses were called plastics. Okay, so new word, plastics. There is a tall and narrow plastic of the goddess, and then there is a very voluptuous round plastic of the goddess, and they have meanings. The one that is narrow is the higher mind, being more in the psychic. The one that is round and voluptuous is earthy and sensual and chaotic. And I was like, well, ain't that interesting? Because for me, when I knew my emotions were really screwed up, like in my early 20s, like I knew there was something not working right because it showed up in my food. And I would always look at fit women and be like, they have their shit together. And their shit was their emotions. I was like, they clearly do not eat their emotions. And so for me, the more I was able to get fit and to get into that body, it was about me having my emotions perfectly under control. And it didn't get like super extreme to like when I got fit, like with macros and everything, like I didn't go, you know how you hear some stories of like women who go way too far with macros. Like I never got obsessive with the macros, but I did get to the point where I was like, if I'm upset, you better not touch any food. Because if you're upset and you eat chocolate, you don't have your emotions together. And so I definitely like made restrictions around that. And so this is a really good thing for you to think about because you may be doing this like this whether or not your Lilith is in the Virgo or not, like this could very much just be, this is exactly what we do when we're not balanced in our feminine energy. And so remember when I said these placements can help you in all different areas of your chart and of your experience. And so if you see this in yourself, oh my gosh, let's see what the next slide says. It says, Lilith and Virgo, the evolved priestess. Here she becomes the wild temple keeper, blending instinct and integrity to embody divine wholeness. Lives in ritual, turns daily life into ceremony and devotion. That is something that I learned a couple years ago of if I'm doing inner child work and I have to fulfill my needs first, then meal prep is actually just making sure my daughter has food. Having snacks with me is making sure my daughter never goes hungry. Drinking water is making sure she doesn't get dehydrated. I really started to flip it that all of my eating habits after the energy clearing portion of it to notice how the energy is and how we feel about the food and the diet and la la la, it became, this is reparenting. So this is really cool. Okay. Channels wild medicine through herbs, words, touch, and grounded wisdom. Knows that purity is presence, not perfection. Uses her discernment to make clean, energetic choices, not punish herself. Listens to her body like a sacred oracle. Gut, womb, and heart are divine instruments. Heals herself and others by restoring right relationship with earth, body, and cycles. Honors order and beauty, not to control, but to hold sacred space. Integrates mysticism into structure, blends the mystical with the practical, becomes the priestess of precision, edits, fine-tunes, refines without shame, softens her sharp mind with compassion, no longer cuts herself with her thoughts, balances work with restoration, service with self-worth, helping with boundaries, alchemizes shame into sacred sovereignty, especially around sex, health, and body image. And as I'm reading this and I'm thinking about that axis point, I'm like, oh, like this really relates for me too, because I got my sun sign in Pisces. And I'm like, yeah, this is all stuff that I intuitively did from the reparenting perspective. And so what this is for you in the context of Lilith is, how do you actually come back to that way of living as the priestess, as embodying part of the mother? Lilith in Virgo, if she was repressed, she would say, if I'm not perfect, I'm not worthy. How many women say that? The evolved is, I turn my rituals into reclamation. I am whole, not flawless.